How do you stay calm when your own daughter tells you the best gift would be you disappearing? What do you do when the family that uses your time and money also treats you like furniture? Why did I pay off their mortgage first, and then vanish like they asked? My name is Graham Pierce. I am 59 years old. I work as a civil engineer, but these days I mostly do consulting. I am the kind of man people describe as steady. I do not talk much. I do not like drama. I like schedules, clean numbers, and quiet rooms. Thanksgiving was at my daughter's house that year. Her name is Lena. She is 31. She works in marketing and branding, and she is good at it. She knows how to smile on command. She knows how to make a room feel like it is part of her story. Her husband Owen is 34. He sells real estate. He has a loud laugh and a hand that always lands on shoulders like he owns the space. I arrived early, like I always did. I brought a tray of food I spent the morning making in my condo kitchen. I also brought a small envelope with a simple note inside. Nothing big, just something clean and respectful, the way I was raised. I parked on the street because their driveway was full already. Even early, there were cars lined up. Lena liked a full house. When I walked in, Lena barely looked up from her phone. She gave me a quick smile and then pointed me toward the kitchen with a short list of tasks. She spoke like she was managing a team, not welcoming her father. Owen walked past me with 2 sodas in his hands and nodded once. He told me the coolers were in the garage and said it would be helpful if I carried the ice. I did not argue. I put my coat on a chair and washed my hands. I moved around their kitchen the way I used to move around job sites. Quiet, useful, out of the way. I found a spot for my tray. I set out plates when I saw a stack. I took the trash out when it filled. No one thanked me. No one needed to. I told myself it was fine. It was family. That was the word I always used when things did not feel fair. People started arriving in waves. Owen greeted them like a host at a party. He stood near the doorway and used big energy. He asked about their work, their trips, their plans. He made jokes, and people laughed. Lena floated from group to group with her phone in her hand, taking quick pictures and telling people where to stand. She adjusted a centerpiece. She fixed a napkin. She asked someone to move a chair so the room looked better. I sat on the edge of a conversation near the living room. I listened more than I spoke. When I tried to add something, Owen shifted the topic back to himself. He told a story about a difficult client and how he handled it. He spoke like he was teaching a class. A few people nodded and said he had strong instincts. Lena looked proud of him. She kept looking at him the way people look at a new car. My grandson Milo ran through the house with a toy in his hand. He is 6. He has Lena's eyes and my quiet focus when he is building something. When he saw me, he stopped for a second and then ran over. He hugged my leg, quick and hard, like he was checking if I was real. I bent down and asked him about school. He told me he was learning a song and that his teacher liked his drawing. Then he looked up at me and called me Graham, not Grandpa. He said it like it was normal, like it was how everyone said it. I felt something in my chest go tight, but I kept my face calm. I asked him if he wanted to help me bring the rolls to the table. He nodded and ran off, happy to have a job. A little later, Lena's mother, Maris, arrived. Maris is my ex-wife. She is 57. She hugged Lena and then she hugged Owen, longer than she hugged me. She gave me a light touch on the arm and said I looked well. Her eyes slid away fast, like holding my gaze was risky. Maris liked peace more than truth. She always had. That was part of why we did not last. Owen's friends and family filled the room. There were people I had met once and people I had never met. Someone brought a camera with a bright flash. Someone else said they were doing a short video for social media. Lena liked moments that looked good. She liked clean angles and happy faces. She asked me to stand near the window for a group photo, and I did. She moved me a half step to the left without asking, like I was a chair. Dinner started late. It always did when Lena hosted. The food was hot and good, but the room was loud. Owen sat at the head of the table. Lena sat beside him. They placed me on the far side near the corner, between a guest I did not know and a stack of extra serving spoons. I could see the kitchen door from my seat. I could also see the hallway where Milo kept running in and out. I tried to keep things light. I asked people about their work. I complimented the food. I asked Milo what he was thankful for. Milo said he was thankful for his new game and for the big TV. Owen laughed and said Milo knew what mattered. People laughed with him. Lena smiled and tapped her phone screen like she was saving a moment. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. At one point, someone asked how Lena and Owen bought their house. It was a big house for their age. Owen smiled and spoke about timing and hustle. He said he took risks. He said they made smart moves. Lena added that she worked hard and built her career fast. They spoke like it was a clean story with two heroes. I sat there and listened. My hand stayed on my fork and knife. I did not mention the long phone calls with lenders. I did not mention the late nights when I reviewed numbers with Lena because she was overwhelmed. I did not mention the money I had quietly moved around so they could show stronger reserves. I did not mention any of it, because I had learned that help only counts when the receiver says it counts. The pattern at their table was subtle but steady. Owen spoke, and the room followed. Lena watched the room while he spoke, like she was checking the mood. When I spoke, Lena's eyes moved to her phone. Owen looked past me towards someone else. If I told a story, Owen interrupted with a bigger story. If I made a small joke, it landed softly and vanished. I did not feel anger. It was more like being slowly erased in real time, like a photo fading in the sun. I kept eating, I kept nodding, I kept my voice calm. I had spent years learning how to stay stable when other people were loud. After dinner, people pushed back chairs and moved into the living room. Someone turned on music. Someone started setting up dessert. Owen stood near the fireplace and clinked a glass with a spoon. He said he wanted to do a toast. People gathered with plates in their hands. Owen spoke first. He thanked everyone for coming. He said he was grateful for his wife and for his home. He said he was proud of what they built. People nodded and smiled. Lena stood next to him, her hand on his arm, looking like a couple in an advertisement. Then Lena spoke. Her voice was clear. She thanked people too. She talked about how busy her year had been and how much she had grown. She said she valued support. She said family mattered. Then she looked at me and her smile changed. It became sharp in a polite way. She said in a light tone that the best gift would be if I disappeared. She said it like a joke. She said it like the room would understand. For a second, the air in the room changed. A few people laughed late, unsure. Someone else looked at their plate. I saw Maris freeze and then force a smile. I did not move fast. I did not raise my voice. I did not ask her to repeat it. I just looked at Lena and nodded once like I had received an instruction on a job site. My body felt very still. My face stayed calm. Inside, something quiet clicked into place. Not rage, not a scene, just clarity. I set my plate down on the coffee table. I walked to the kitchen and rinsed my hands. I picked up my coat from the chair. I found my container and took it with me, because it was mine and because I did not want to leave anything behind that could become a story later. Owen followed me toward the door. He asked if I was leaving already. His voice had a casual edge, like my exit was inconvenient. Lena stayed in the living room, talking to someone else as if nothing happened. Maris did not stop me. She watched me from a distance with an expression that looked like worry and relief at the same time. I told Owen I understood and that I did not want to take up space. I told him I hoped everyone enjoyed the night. I did not accuse him of anything. I did not ask for respect. I did not ask for an apology. I simply stepped outside into the cold air. The street was quiet compared to the house. My breath showed for a moment and then vanished. I walked to my car and sat in the driver's seat with both hands on the steering wheel. The neighborhood lights were soft. Inside the house, I could see shapes moving behind curtains. I could hear muffled laughter when the door opened for a second. I did not cry. I did not shake. I just sat there and let the words settle. The best gift would be if I disappeared. I let myself accept that she meant it. Maybe she meant it as a performance. Maybe she meant it as a truth. Either way, she said it, and everyone heard it. After a minute, I started the engine. The dashboard lights came on, clean and quiet. I backed out slowly and drove away without looking back. I drove home with the radio off. I like silence when I need to think. The roads were mostly empty. The streetlights made long lines on the windshield. When I got to my condo, I carried my container inside and placed it in the fridge. I washed the one dish I used. I wiped the counter. I did small tasks because they keep my hands steady. Then I sat at my kitchen table. I did not turn on the TV. I did not call anyone. I looked at my phone screen, dark and clean, like it was waiting for me to make a choice. People think quiet men do not feel things. They think silence is the same as weakness. For most of my life, I did not correct them. I had work to do. I had a child to raise. I had bills to pay. I did not have time to defend my dignity every day. When Lena was small, life was simple in a hard way. I worked long hours. I came home tired. I still cooked. I still checked homework. I still made sure there were clean clothes for school. I did not do it for praise. I did it because it was my job as her father. Maris and I were not a loud couple. We were normal on the outside. We went to dinners. We took photos. We hosted small parties. But we had cracks that grew over time. Maris wanted life to feel light. She wanted a social circle. She wanted constant reassurance. I wanted stability. I wanted plans, savings, and routines. I thought love could be built with reliability. She thought love should feel exciting and easy. When Lena was around 10, I started noticing that Maris would talk about my work like it was a wall between us. She said I was always thinking about projects. I told her that projects paid for our home and Lena's future. She said she understood, but her eyes said she did not want that kind of life. The separation was quiet and slow. There was no single day where everything broke. It was small days, a late return, a cold look, a conversation that ended too early. Then one day Maris said she wanted a different life. She said she needed space. I did not beg. I asked how we would handle Lena. Maris said we would figure it out. After that, Lena spent most weekdays with me. Maris took weekends when it fit her plans. Maris did not vanish, but she moved through motherhood like it was something she could pause and unpause. I tried to keep Lena steady. I made sure she had rules. I made sure she had a bedtime. I made sure she had a seat at the table every night. I remember Lena at 12, sitting at my kitchen table while I explained budgets. She wanted a new phone because her friends had one. I told her she could have one, but we would wait and plan it. I showed her how to list needs and wants. I showed her that money is quiet power. She rolled her eyes, but she listened. She was smart. She always was. In high school, Lena became focused on image. She cared about brands, clothes, photos, and who sat with whom. I tried to teach her character over performance. I told her people who really care will not need a perfect picture. She said I did not understand her world. I told her I understood enough to know what lasts. She stopped talking when I said things like that. College was expensive. Lena chose a school that made her feel important. Maris praised it like it was a trophy. I looked at the numbers and felt my stomach tighten. I did not tell Lena no. I told her we would do it carefully. I picked up more consulting work. I took projects I did not love. I drove long distances for meetings. I saved every extra dollar. Lena did well in school. She called when she needed help. Sometimes it was for money. Sometimes it was for advice. She had a talent for making her needs sound urgent. She could speak fast and make you feel like you were the only person who could fix it. I learned to slow her down. I learned to ask for details. I learned to keep my voice calm so she could not steer me with emotion. When Lena met Owen, I tried to stay neutral. He was charming from the first day. He spoke with confidence. He used friendly words. He asked me questions about my work, but he did not listen to the answers. He was performing interest, not building it. I noticed this, but I did not say it out loud. Owen wanted to be liked. He wanted rooms to follow him. Lena liked that. She liked standing beside a man who seemed to take up space. She introduced him to people with pride, like he was part of her brand. The wedding was expensive, too. Lena wanted it to look a certain way. She said it would only happen once. Maris supported every upgrade. Owen's family made comments about tradition and quality. I kept my face calm and paid for what I said I would pay for. I also paid for things I did not promise because Lena looked stressed, and I did not want her to carry that stress into her marriage. After the wedding, the calls changed. Before, Lena called to talk. She told me about classes and friends. After, the calls were short and specific. She asked if I could review a lease. She asked if I could help with a bill. She asked if I could watch Milo when their childcare plan fell apart. She did not ask how I was doing unless she needed the polite words to open the door. When Milo was born, I felt joy and also fear. Joy because I loved him immediately. Fear because I could see how Lena was building a world where I was useful, not valued. She invited me when she needed support. She forgot me when she did not. The house was the big turning point. Lena and Owen wanted a home that was larger than their budget. Owen spoke about investment and growth. He said it would pay off. He said waiting was for people who lacked courage. Lena said they were ready and that I should be proud. I asked to see their numbers. Owen joked that I was still in engineer mode. I told him that homes are not just emotions. He smiled, but his eyes tightened for a moment. Lena said they were adults and that they could handle it. I told her adults still make plans. They did not qualify the first time. They acted surprised, like the system was unfair. Owen blamed the lender. Lena blamed timing. I looked at their spending and their savings. I saw the gap. I knew what the gap meant. It meant they would either accept a smaller house or they would look for someone to fill the gap. They filled it with me, slowly, with soft language. It was never one big request. It was a series of small ones. Lena said they just needed to show stronger reserves. Lena said it would be temporary. Lena said they would pay it back once Owen's next sale came through. Owen said family helps family. Owen said I would understand because I was practical. I helped, but I did it carefully. I did not empty my savings. I did not break my stability. I moved support in controlled steps. I told myself it was for Milo. I told myself the house would give them a stable base. I told myself that if I did not help, they might struggle, and then I would feel responsible. Once they got the house, gratitude lasted a few weeks. Then it disappeared. The home became their achievement in their story. When they talked about it, Owen said they took bold steps. Lena said she built her career and made it happen. They said it with pride in front of friends. If my help was mentioned at all, it was framed like a normal detail, not a sacrifice. There were moments that should have warned me sooner, like the time Lena hosted a small party and introduced everyone with big smiles, but when she got to me, she said I lived nearby and liked quiet. She said it like I was a hobby, not her father. Owen laughed and said I was low maintenance. People nodded, relieved that I would not demand attention, or the time Milo's school had an event and I showed up early. Lena arrived late, rushed, and handed me a bag to carry without looking at me. Owen walked past and said I could handle it because I was organized. I did handle it. I always handled it. That was the problem. After Thanksgiving, sitting in my kitchen, I started replaying the last few years like a timeline. Not with anger, with clarity. Lena's words were not random. They came from a long pattern. A pattern where my quiet support became background noise. I thought about the way Lena moved me during photos, half a step left, half a step back. I thought about the way she spoke to me in front of others, like she was managing a helper. I thought about the way Owen took the head seat at every table and used my presence as proof that he was in control. I also thought about Maris. Maris did not like conflict. She preferred smooth surfaces. She would tell me to let things go. She would tell me that Lena was under stress. She would tell me that being a parent means taking hard moments. Maris acted like respect was a luxury, not a requirement. I reached for my phone and scrolled through old messages. I did not open anything dramatic. I just looked at patterns. I noticed how often Lena wrote late at night when she needed something. I noticed how often she did not respond when I asked a simple question, like when I could see Milo. I noticed how often her tone shifted when I hesitated. I made tea and sat back down. I kept the light low. I thought about the way Milo called me by my first name. He did not invent that. He learned it. Children repeat what is normal in their home. That meant someone had decided my place should be smaller. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was the family group chat. Lena wrote that she hoped I got home safe. She wrote that she did not want any awkwardness after earlier. She wrote that people were just joking and that I should not take things so seriously. She added that Owen felt I left in a rude way. I stared at the message for a long time. My hands did not shake. My face did not change. I felt something settle in me like a weight finding the ground. Lena did not ask if I was hurt. She did not ask what she could do to fix it. She asked me to protect her comfort. She asked me to keep her image clean. She wanted me to swallow it so the room could stay pleasant. I put the phone down on the table and looked around my quiet condo. I could hear the refrigerator hum. I could hear a car pass outside. Everything in my home was simple, clean, and mine. I told myself I would not argue in a group chat. I told myself I would not try to teach Lena respect through emotional speeches. I had tried that before in small ways. It never worked. Lena heard words the way she heard background music. She only reacted to things that changed her reality. That night, I did not answer the group chat. I turned my phone face down and finished my tea. I sat in silence until the cup cooled. Then I washed it, dried it, and placed it in the same spot where it always belonged. The next morning, I woke up early, the way I always do. My body still runs on work time. I made coffee and stood by the window while it brewed. The street outside was quiet. The world looked normal. That was the strange part. My own home felt calm, while my mind kept returning to one moment in that living room. I did not respond to the group chat. I left it alone like a door I did not want to open. Instead, I went through my day with small tasks. I checked my calendar, I paid a couple of bills, I cleaned the bathroom sink, I did laundry. I kept moving because stopping would mean sitting with it too long. Around noon, Lena called. Her voice was bright, like nothing happened. She said Milo had left his winter sweater at their house last time I watched him, and she asked if I could bring it by because they were going out later. She said it would only take a minute. She said she was busy and it would help. I told her I understood. I did not mention Thanksgiving. I did not ask why she spoke to me the way she did. I simply said I could drop it off. I drove to their house in the early afternoon. The neighborhood was clean and quiet, the kind of place people post online with captions about gratitude. Their lawn was trimmed, their porch had seasonal decorations. Everything looked intentional. I parked on the street again. I noticed 2 new cars in the driveway. Owen's life always seemed to add new things. When I rang the bell, Owen opened the door halfway. He did not invite me in. He kept one hand on the door, like he was controlling how much space I could take. He looked past me toward the street and asked if I had the sweater. I held it up and said yes. He took it without thanks. He told me Lena was upstairs getting ready. He said they were running behind, and then he looked at his phone and sighed, like I was part of his delay. He asked if I could also drop off a package at the post office later if he left it on the porch. He said it would be easy for me because I had time. I did not react on my face. I told him I had plans and could not promise anything. Owen blinked like he did not hear that word often. He smiled, but it was thin. He said he was just asking. I heard Milo's feet in the hallway. He ran toward me and stopped, then hugged me around the waist. That small hug felt real. It reminded me why I kept showing up. I bent down and asked him if he had fun yesterday. He said yes, and then he told me they were going to a friend's house. He said there would be games and a big screen. Then he said he hoped I would not be weird like yesterday. He said it in a child's voice, casual and unguarded. My chest tightened again. I asked him what he meant. He shrugged and said his mom said people get too sensitive and ruin the mood. I looked at Owen. Owen was watching me with a faint smile, like he expected me to react. Lena called from upstairs that they were almost ready. Her voice was cheerful, like a host speaking to guests. She did not come down. She did not look at me. She did not ask Milo to say goodbye properly. I patted Milo's shoulder and told him to listen to his parents and have a good time. He ran back into the hallway. Owen stepped slightly forward, blocking the doorway again. He said Lena had been stressed and that I should not take her words personally. He said she had a lot going on and I should be the bigger person. He spoke like he was giving advice, not acknowledging harm. I nodded once and said I understood. Then I turned and walked back to my car. I did not slam the door. I did not speed away. I drove like I always drive, smooth and careful. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my thoughts were sharp. At a red light, I realized something simple. In that house, my feelings were treated like a problem for them to manage, not a signal they should respect. They did not ask what they did wrong. They asked how I would help them feel comfortable again. That evening, Maris called. She did not start with a greeting. She started with a warning. She said Lena was upset that I was ignoring the group chat. She said I made things uncomfortable. She said people noticed my exit at Thanksgiving, and it made Lena look bad. I stayed quiet while she talked. Maris always spoke first when she was nervous. She said Lena had worked hard to host. She said it was a holiday, and I should not hold on to one moment. She said Lena was sensitive, and Owen was proud. She said I should send a message and smooth it over. I told Maris I heard her. I told her I was not going to argue in a chat. Maris asked what I wanted then. She asked if I wanted to cut off my daughter. She said that would be extreme. I told her I did not want anything extreme. I told her I wanted basic respect. I said I was tired of being treated like I was only useful when I was paying or carrying something. Maris went quiet for a moment, then said I was being dramatic. She said Lena had a good life, and I should be grateful for that. She said I should not make it about myself. That sentence stayed with me after we hung up. Do not make it about yourself. I thought about how many years I had followed that rule. I thought about how it had trained everyone around me to see me as background. 2 days later, I stopped at a hardware store near my condo. I needed a new set of light bulbs and a small container for screws. I moved slowly through the aisles, reading labels, comparing prices. I like simple choices. They calm my mind. In the aisle near the paint supplies, I saw my neighbor, Nina Patel. Nina is 66. She has lived in the building next to mine for years. She is not loud, but she is direct. She carries herself like someone who has seen enough life to stop pretending. She asked how my holiday went. Her tone was casual, but her eyes were attentive. I gave a short answer and said it was fine. Nina did not accept that. She looked at me for a second and said I did not look fine. I told her Lena said something that made it clear how she saw me. Nina nodded like she already understood the kind of story it was. She said some people treat kindness like a tool, not like a gift. She said if you keep handing people tools, they will keep building a life that does not include your feelings. I did not say much. Nina did not push for details. She simply said I should protect my peace the way I protected everyone else's. She said boundaries are not punishment. They are instructions. Her words were simple. That is why they landed. On the way home, I stopped at a coffee shop and sat in the corner with a notebook. I did not write anything dramatic. I wrote dates. I wrote short lines. Thanksgiving, group chat message, the sweater drop-off, Milo's comment, Maris calling to smooth it over. I wrote them the way I would write site notes, just facts. At home, I went to my small office area. It is not much, just a desk, a shelf, and a filing cabinet. I have kept paperwork organized my whole life. It is part of how I stay stable. I opened the cabinet and looked at the folders. Some were old work files, some were personal, some were labeled with simple words that reminded me what they contained. I did not pull out anything to read in detail. I did not spread papers across the desk like a movie scene. I simply checked what existed and where it was. I noticed how many items were connected to Lena and Owen. There were notes from conversations. There were summaries I wrote for myself after calls. There were reminders I saved because I did not trust memory alone. I also found a small envelope with a business card inside. It was from Rosa Kim. Rosa is an attorney I met years ago through a professional contact. Back then, she helped with a contract issue for a consulting project. She was calm and exact. She did not waste words. I kept her card because I respect people who speak clearly and do their job without emotion. I sat at my desk with the card in my hand. I did not feel anger. I felt something cleaner, a clear sense that I needed structure, not arguments, not speeches, structure. I picked up my phone and typed a short message to Lena. I told her I would not attend any more events until we had a respectful conversation. I did not insult her. I did not list everything she did. I kept it short. I sent it and then set the phone down. A minute later, she replied. She said I was making everything bigger than it was. She said I was trying to control her. She said I should stop acting like a victim. The words were sharp, but they were also familiar. They were the kind of words people use when they do not want accountability. Owen replied too. He said I was welcome in their home if I could keep things positive. He said negativity was not good for Milo. He turned my pain into a risk to their comfort, and he used Milo as a shield. I stared at the messages. I did not type back. I opened my notebook again and wrote one line under the last date. They will not change with words. Then I called Rosa Kim's office. I did not explain everything. I left a simple voicemail. I said I needed guidance on family and financial boundaries, and I wanted to handle it properly. I said I could meet at her convenience. After I hung up, I felt the room get quieter. Not because the problem vanished, but because I had moved from reaction to process. That shift mattered to me. It felt like standing on solid ground. Later that night, my phone buzzed. It was a missed call from an unknown number. A second later, a voicemail appeared. The transcription preview showed Rosa's name and a short line telling me to call back when I was alone and ready to take notes. I sat at my desk and looked at the filing cabinet again. I looked at my notebook with the dates. I looked at the small stack of clean paper beside it. I was not planning a fight. I was planning a boundary that could not be talked out of. I played the voicemail once, then set the phone down and opened my notebook to a fresh page. I wrote today's date at the top and waited for my hand to stop trembling, even though my voice never did. 2 days after I heard from Rosa, I met her at her office. I drove there early because I do not like rushing. Her building was clean and quiet. The lobby smelled like paper and lemon polish, the kind of place where people speak softly because the walls feel expensive. Rosa greeted me with a firm handshake. She did not waste time with small talk. She asked what I wanted in simple words. I told her I wanted to set boundaries with my adult daughter and her husband. I told her I wanted to do it through proper systems. I said I did not want drama. I wanted structure. Rosa listened without interrupting. She took notes with a neat pen. When I paused, she asked clear questions. She asked how much money I had given them over the years. She asked if anything was written. She asked if any payments were tied to the house. She asked if there were any agreements I could point to. She asked if I had messages, calendar records, or bank records that showed a pattern. I told her I had some things saved. I said I kept notes and reminders. I said I had messages. I said I could get formal records if needed. I did not open any folders in her office. I did not show her anything. I simply told her what existed. Rosa nodded and said the first step was always clarity. She said feelings matter, but systems respond to facts. She told me to make a timeline and keep it clean. She told me to gather records without changing anything. She told me to avoid long emotional texts. She said short, calm messages are safer and stronger. I asked her what kind of boundaries were possible. I did not ask for punishment. I asked for protection. Rosa said there are many lawful ways to protect yourself, but the best choice depends on what is real on paper and what is only tradition. She said family habits can feel like rules, but they are not always enforceable unless they are set properly. When I left her office, I felt lighter. Not because my family had changed, they had not. I felt lighter because I was no longer waiting for them to understand me. I was taking the situation out of the emotional space and placing it into a structured space. That is where I function best. On the way home, I stopped at my bank. It was a branch I had used for years. The tellers knew my face. They always greeted me in the same polite way. I took a number and sat in a chair near the window. While I waited, I watched people come and go. A young couple argued quietly over a form. An older man asked about a check. A woman in a business suit spoke into her phone with urgency. I noticed something simple. Everyone in that room wanted the same thing. They wanted certainty. They wanted something written. They wanted proof. When my number was called, I walked to the desk and greeted the banker. I asked for routine information. I asked for statements for specific months. I asked for confirmation details on certain transfers. I asked for a payoff figure related to the house, the way a careful person asks. I did not make a scene. I did not explain family drama. I kept it professional. The banker asked questions, and I answered calmly. They printed a few things and told me what could be provided now and what would take a request. I nodded and thanked them. I placed the papers in a plain folder, nothing fancy, just clean and organized. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and made a checklist. I wrote down what Rosa told me in my own words. Keep facts. Keep dates. Keep messages. Keep records. No long texts. No arguments. I wrote it like a work plan. Then I opened my calendar and looked at the coming weeks. I noticed I had been marking family events in my schedule the same way I marked meetings, Milo's school events, Lena's birthdays, Owen's gatherings, things I attended even when I felt like a guest. I stared at those entries for a long time. I did not delete them yet. I just looked. I asked myself a simple question. If I did not show up, would anyone notice my absence as a loss or only as an inconvenience? The answer was not comfortable, but it was clear. The next day, Lena sent a message that sounded cheerful. She said she wanted to reset. She said she had been stressed and she did not want negativity around Milo. She asked if I could watch Milo on Friday because they had plans. She ended with a heart symbol, like it made everything soft again. I read the message twice. I noticed what was missing. There was no real apology. There was no ownership. There was no respect. There was only a request and a smile. I replied with one sentence. I told her I could not do Friday. I did not give a long reason. I did not add emotion. I kept it simple. Lena did not respond for a few hours. Then she sent a short message saying she was disappointed. She said, "Family helps family." She said Milo would miss me. She said she hoped I was not being stubborn. I did not reply. I wrote the date in my notebook. I added a short line, a request, followed by pressure. Owen messaged next. He asked if everything was okay. He said Lena was upset. He said I should not make things difficult. He said I should consider how my behavior affected Milo. His words looked calm, but the goal was clear. He wanted me to move back into my old role. I left his message unread for a while. Then I opened it and did not respond. That was a boundary too. A small one, but real. Over the next week, they relaxed in a way that made things clearer. When people think you will always return, they stop trying. Lena went back to her normal rhythm. Owen went back to his normal confidence. They assumed my silence meant I would cool down and come back like before. Maris called again. She said Lena told her I was being distant. Maris said I was punishing my daughter. She said I was making the holidays hard. She said I should talk it out like adults. I told Maris I was not punishing anyone. I said I was protecting my peace. Maris said peace should not come at the cost of family. I told her peace is part of family, or it should be. Maris went quiet and then told me Lena was sensitive. She asked me to be patient. I ended the call politely. I did not argue. I did not try to convince her. Maris had chosen her comfort for years. I did not expect her to change now. I kept gathering facts quietly. I did it the way I manage project records. I backed up messages. I saved screenshots in a clean folder on my computer. I labeled files by date. I wrote short notes when something happened, not my feelings, just what happened and when. One afternoon, I went back to the bank to follow up on a request. The banker handed me a sealed envelope and explained what it contained. I nodded and thanked them. I did not open it there. I placed it in my folder and went home. In my home office, I placed that envelope into a drawer. I did not spread it out on the desk. I did not stare at it like a trophy. I treated it like a tool that might be needed later. I had learned that people like Owen only respect tools. A few days later, I met Rosa again. I did not show her documents. I described patterns. I told her about the messages. I told her about Milo's words. I told her about the pressure. Rosa listened and asked one question that stayed with me. She asked what outcome I wanted if they did not change. I told her I wanted a clean separation from being used. I told her I wanted my help to stop being assumed. I told her I wanted my name and my role to be treated with basic respect. Rosa nodded and said respect cannot be forced, but access can be controlled. She said boundaries are not about making others feel pain. They are about protecting your own life. That week, I received an invite on my phone calendar. It was for a work event, but it had Lena's name on it. She worked for a company with a big office downtown. The invite said, "Office Celebration." It listed a date 2 weeks away. It mentioned a short presentation and then snacks and drinks. It looked like a public event, not a family dinner. Lena followed the invite with a message. She said she wanted me there. She said it would mean a lot to her. She said she planned to thank family support for helping her get through a hard year. She asked me to come early so I could meet her coworkers. The message was written like a warm request, but I could read between the lines. She wanted the image. She wanted to look like a good daughter. She wanted to use my presence as proof that everything was fine. I replied calmly. I told her I would consider it. I did not promise. I did not refuse. I kept my words neutral. That night, I sat at my kitchen table again and looked at my calendar. I stared at the date of the office celebration. I circled it lightly in pencil on my paper planner, even though I already had it on my phone. Then I wrote a private reminder right after it. The reminder did not explain anything. It was just 2 words. Follow through. In the days that followed, Owen started acting friendly again. He sent a message about a small home repair and asked if I knew a contractor. He sent another message about a quick question related to taxes and forms. He used polite language. He added smile symbols. He was trying to pull me back with small links. I answered one question in a short way and ignored the rest. I was not playing the old game anymore. I was not going to be dragged into a role by tiny requests. One afternoon, Nina Patel saw me in the hallway near the mailboxes. She asked if I was doing okay. I told her I was handling things properly. Nina nodded like she understood the meaning. She said proper handling is often quiet, and that is why people do not see it coming. She said I looked more settled than I had before. I thanked her and went inside. By the end of that week, my folders were neat. My notes were clear. My calendar was marked. I had stopped reacting to every message. I had started choosing my responses like I choose materials on a job, based on strength, not emotion. Lena sent one more message about the office celebration. She said she hoped I would not embarrass her by skipping. She said people would ask questions. She said it would be awkward. She ended by saying she needed me to be supportive, like always. I read it, then placed my phone face down. I looked around my quiet condo. The air felt steady. My chest felt steady. I could feel something building, but it was not anger. It was readiness. I was positioning myself for a moment where I would stop being managed by their expectations and start living by my own rules. The week of Lena's office celebration moved slowly. Every day felt normal on the outside, but inside I was tightening bolts on something that had been loose for years. I went to work calls, I answered emails, I cooked simple meals, I walked the same hallway in my condo building. I kept my voice calm with everyone, even with myself. Lena sent a few more messages. Each one had the same shape, a soft opening, a request, and then a reminder of what she thought I owed her. She wrote that she wanted me present because it would look good. She wrote that people would ask questions. She wrote that it would be awkward if I did not come. She wrote that I should not make her life harder. She never wrote that she was sorry for what she said. She never wrote that she understood why it landed the way it did. Owen tried a different approach. He sent me short, friendly notes, as if we were close. He asked about contractors. He asked about forms. He asked if I could take a look at something real quick. He used polite words, but the message behind them was simple. He wanted access. He wanted to reattach the old cord. I stayed steady. When something was truly about Milo's safety or school, I answered in a clean, helpful way. When it was about convenience or money, I kept quiet. It was strange at first, because I had trained myself to respond quickly. I had been the reliable one for so long that silence felt like I was breaking a rule. But after a few days, the silence began to feel like breathing room. On Tuesday, I went back to Rosa's office. I did not bring drama with me. I brought a folder and a notebook. Rosa asked if I was ready to do this properly, and I said yes. She reminded me again to keep everything calm and factual. She asked if I had done anything impulsive. I told her no. I told her I had been quiet, and I had been gathering what I needed. She explained next steps in simple language. She said some actions are cleanest when they are done before emotions flare. She said when people feel control slipping, they sometimes rewrite the story. She said I had to protect myself from that rewrite. She asked me to think about the moment I wanted to draw the line, not in a private living room, but in a setting where people would pay attention to truth. I told her about the office celebration. I told her Lena wanted me there as a symbol. Rosa nodded and said symbols cut both ways. She told me to decide what I wanted my presence to mean. She also told me to prepare for phone calls, pressure, and last-minute attempts to soften me. She said I did not have to argue. She said I only had to be consistent. After I left Rosa's office, I drove straight to my bank. I did not do it because I was angry. I did it because I was done living inside other people's expectations. The bank lobby was busy. People stood in line with envelopes and forms. The tellers smiled the same polite smiles they always smile. When it was my turn, I sat at a desk with a banker and spoke in a calm voice. I asked for the remaining balance related to Lena and Owen's home loan. I asked what it would take to clear it fully. The banker asked questions and confirmed details. They printed forms and turned a screen toward me. I read every line the way I read specifications on a job. I asked one or two simple clarifying questions. Then I nodded. I made the payment. I did it cleanly and fully. I did not announce it to anyone. I did not call Lena. I did not call Maris. I watched the banker click through the steps. Then I watched the printer feed paper into a tray. The sound of that printer was steady and ordinary, like rain on a window. The banker handed me a receipt packet in a plain envelope and asked if I wanted anything else. I told them no. I thanked them. I walked out holding that envelope like it was nothing, because on the outside it was nothing, just paper. On the inside, it was a boundary that could not be argued with. Back in my condo, I placed the envelope into my office drawer. I did not open it at my desk. I did not stare at it. I simply put it where it belonged, next to other items that were labeled and organized. Then I sat down and wrote 2 sentences in my notebook. Date, time, action completed. That was all. That evening, I cooked dinner and ate it alone. The quiet did not feel empty. It felt controlled. I cleaned the kitchen, then sat at my desk again. I prepared 2 small stacks of items. One stack was for my own records. The other stack was for delivery. I did not write a long speech. I wrote a short letter in plain words, the way I speak. I did not insult anyone. I did not ask anyone to understand my pain. I set out boundaries and consequences in a calm tone. I slept well that night, which surprised me. I expected my mind to spin, but it did not. For once, I was not waiting for my family to treat me better. I was acting like a man who respects himself. Over the next few days, Lena became more intense. She called twice and left cheerful voicemails, like she was trying to reset the story. She said she missed me. She said Milo asked about me. She said the office celebration would be special. She said she wanted a photo with me there. She said she wanted to thank me publicly for being supportive. Then her tone shifted. She wrote that I was being stubborn. She wrote that I was embarrassing her. She wrote that I was making the family look broken. She wrote that people would judge her. It was not about me. It was always about the story she wanted to tell. Maris called too. Her voice was careful, like she already knew she was stepping onto thin ice. She asked what I was doing. She asked why I was being so quiet. She said Lena was anxious. She said I should give Lena grace. She said family should not be handled like a business. I told Maris I was not trying to hurt anyone. I told her I was trying to stop being used. Maris said used was a strong word. She said Lena loved me. I told her love without respect becomes a demand. Maris did not answer that. She just sighed and said I should think about Milo. After that call, I sat alone on my couch and thought about Milo for a long time. Milo was innocent. Milo was also learning what adults teach without meaning to. I could not control what Lena and Owen taught him at home, but I could control what I modeled. I could model calm boundaries. I could model self-respect. I could show him that kindness does not mean you accept anything. 2 nights before the office celebration, I booked a flight. I did not choose a nearby city. I chose a place far enough that my body would understand I had stepped out of the old pattern. I chose Hawaii because I had not been there since I was young and because the ocean is honest. It does not pretend, it does not flatter, it simply is what it is. I packed light, 2 shirts, 1 pair of clean shoes, a simple jacket, and my basic toiletries. I placed my passport and wallet in the same place I always place them. I printed my boarding pass because I like paper backups. The printer in my condo made the same steady sound as the printer at the bank. That sound became part of this chapter for me. Quiet machines, quiet choices, quiet permanence. The morning of my flight, I woke up early. I made coffee. I stood by the window. The sky was gray and flat. I ate toast, then washed my plate. I locked my condo and walked to my car with my small bag. At the airport, people rushed and complained and dragged suitcases across the floor. I moved through the crowd without being pulled into it. I checked in, went through security, and sat at my gate with a bottle of water. I watched the screens change with times and numbers. The world kept moving, whether families respected each other or not. While I waited, my phone buzzed. Lena had sent another message. She wrote that she hoped I would come to the office celebration and stop making a point. She wrote that I was her father and I should act like it. I read it once, then put my phone back in my pocket. When my flight was called, I boarded without hesitation. I took my seat and looked out the window as the plane rolled away from the gate. I felt a quiet relief as the ground pulled back. It was not about escaping responsibility. It was about stepping out of a role that had become a cage. Hawaii greeted me with warm air and soft light. The hotel was calm. The lobby smelled faintly like flowers and clean linen. I checked in, went up to my room, and opened the balcony door. The ocean sound filled the space like a steady breath. That night, I sat at the small desk in my room and made one last check of my folder list. I did not celebrate. I did not smile in the mirror. I simply confirmed that everything was arranged the way it needed to be. Then I turned off the light, lay down, and listened to the waves until my mind went quiet. The morning of Lena's office celebration, I woke up before sunrise in Hawaii. The room was still dark, but I could hear the ocean. I made coffee in the small machine near the sink and sat on the balcony with the cup in my hands. The air was warm and clean. For a few minutes, I just listened. Then I checked my phone. I had one goal for that day. I wanted the boundary to land in a place where it could not be rewritten. Lena's workplace was perfect for that. She cared about image more than anything. She cared about being seen as successful, stable, and supported. She wanted me there as proof that our family was fine, so I chose a different kind of proof. I had arranged delivery to her office the day before, not as a surprise gift, as a final, organized statement. I opened the delivery confirmation. It showed the package had been dropped off and placed where it was requested. I sent a short message to Rosa, letting her know it had arrived. She replied that she was already on standby if anyone called her office in a rush. I did not call Lena. I did not warn Owen. I did not argue in advance. For years, they treated my calm as something they could bend. That day, my calm was the structure they would hit. The package was not dramatic on the outside, a plain box, plain label. Inside, it was organized the same way I organize project records. Tabs, dates, short headings, clear lines. The first section was the mortgage payoff confirmation from the bank. It showed the balance had been cleared and the loan was satisfied. It also showed the timeline of the payment, clean and final. The second section was the agreement Lena and Owen signed years earlier when they needed help to get the house. Back then, they told me it was just a formality. Owen said it was to keep things clear. Lena said it was to make me feel comfortable. They signed it and forgot it. I did not forget it. That agreement was notarized. It treated my support as a loan, not a gift, and it secured that loan against the property. It was written in plain language, with a simple schedule and a clear clause for what happens if they refuse to cooperate later. The bank mortgage being paid off did not remove their obligation to me. It made it visible. The third section was a letter from me, 1 page. No insults, no long history. Just the facts and my decision. I explained that on Thanksgiving, Lena told me the best gift would be if I disappeared. I explained that I accepted her request. I explained that I was paying off the mortgage as a final act of closure, not as an invitation for more requests. I stated that after that day, I would no longer provide financial support, emergency payments, or last-minute childcare. I also stated that all communication would go through proper channels if needed, and I would not discuss this in group chats. The fourth section was a summary of changes I made to my personal planning. I did not write it like a threat. I wrote it like a notice. It showed that Lena and Owen were no longer listed for decision-making roles in my life. It showed that future benefits they assumed would come automatically were no longer arranged that way. It also showed that any future support connected to Milo would be handled in a controlled structure, managed by someone independent, not by Lena and Owen. The fifth section was the pattern evidence. Screenshots of messages, dates of requests, notes on canceled visits, the group chat message telling me not to make things awkward, a short log of how often I was contacted only when they needed something. I kept it boring on purpose. Boring facts are harder to argue with. The last page was a simple instruction sheet. It told Lena and Owen what to do next if they wanted to resolve the loan properly. It gave them a timeline. It gave them Rosa's office contact. It also stated that if they chose to ignore it, the system would still move forward without their permission, because that is how systems work. While I sat on the balcony, Lena was walking into her office building with her coffee and her busy face. She liked to arrive with momentum. She liked people to see her as important. I did not see it in person, but Rosa later gave me a clean summary of how it unfolded, because Lena's company contacted her within an hour. Lena found the package on her desk before the first meeting. She assumed it was connected to the celebration. She opened it quickly. At first she smiled, then her expression dropped. Her hands slowed down as she turned pages. She stopped breathing for a second, the way people do when they realize they are not in control anymore. A coworker noticed. Someone asked if she was okay. Lena gave a short answer that did not match her face. She gathered the papers fast, like she was trying to hide them, but the tabs and headings made it obvious it was serious. She carried the file into a glass conference room and shut the door. She called Owen. He did not answer on the first ring. He was probably busy. Then he called back. His tone changed as he looked at the documents. He said he did not understand what I was doing. He said I could not do this. He said this was family. Lena kept talking over him, trying to make him fix it with confidence the way he fixed things with people. But this was not a conversation problem. It was a structure problem. Owen tried to call me next. I watched the call come in. I let it ring. He called again. I let it ring again. Then Lena called. I let it ring too. I was not avoiding responsibility. I was avoiding the old pattern where they pressured me until I softened. They shifted to messages. Lena wrote fast. She said I was ruining her day. She said I was humiliating her at work. She said I was being cruel. Owen wrote that we needed to talk like adults. He wrote that I was making this public. He wrote that he could not believe I would do this to them. I did not reply. Instead, I sent one short message to Rosa telling her they might call. I also sent one short message to Lena that did not explain anything. I told her everything she needed was in the package, and if she wanted to handle it properly, she could follow the instructions. That message made things worse for them because it removed the one tool they always used. Emotion. Lena's boss stepped into the conference room a few minutes later. The celebration schedule was on the calendar. Lena had a presentation to give. She had planned to stand up and talk about her success and her support system. She had planned to smile and point to me as proof that her life was stable. Instead, her boss saw her sitting with a thick file on the table, eyes red, breathing shallow, phone in her hand. Lena tried to say it was personal and that she could still present. Her boss did not accept that. The boss asked if legal paperwork was involved. Lena hesitated, and that hesitation answered the question. Human resources was brought in. Lena did not want that. She wanted privacy. But workplaces do not care about pride. They care about risk. HR asked Lena if there was any threat to the company. Lena said no, but she could not explain why a lawyer's number was on the instruction page. She said it was family stuff. HR asked if anyone was coming to the office. Lena said no again, but Owen was already on his way in his mind. Owen is the kind of man who believes walking into a room solves problems. HR told Lena to postpone the celebration. They told her to step out of meetings until she was stable. Lena tried to push back, but her voice broke. The glass walls did not hide it. People outside the room could see her gestures. They could see her face. They could see that the perfect story had cracked. Owen called Rosa's office. He demanded an explanation. Rosa gave him one, in the same calm tone she uses with everyone. She told him the documents were valid, filed properly, and supported by records. She told him his options were listed in the packet. She told him if he wanted to challenge anything, he could do it through the correct process. She did not argue. She did not comfort him. She treated him like a man responsible for his choices. That was when Owen's confidence finally slipped. He called Lena again, and his voice sounded smaller. He told her the bank payoff was real. He told her the secured loan was real. He told her there was a deadline. He told her their plan for the next property purchase, the one he kept talking about, was now a problem because lenders would see the lien and the obligation. Lena put her head in her hands. Then she looked up at the glass wall and saw coworkers watching without trying to. She gathered the pages again, but it was too late. The room already knew something big was happening. Later that afternoon, Lena's boss sent her a short email, copied to HR, stating that her presentation would be rescheduled and that she should take the rest of the day off. Lena stared at the screen with the file open on the table, the payoff confirmation on top, and she went completely still.